Thank you for joining us for the 5th episode of Reflection to Revelation. We're so happy to be here this week as it marks our 5th week, and the response so far has been so positive, and we're so grateful for all those who have been watching, leaving comments, and also, sharing your kind words through DMs and also here at church at Testimony Hub. This episode is special for us. At the moment, I'm in Sydney, and Richard is actually in Dubai when we filmed this episode for you. He's actually traveling to and fro Sydney and Ghana to preach the good word, and also to see family as well. So we're really grateful that he made the time literally between flights, and we can't wait to share this episode with you. This episode is highly anticipated because it's actually all about business. I think business comes with a lot of biases, premonitions, and a lot of questions as well, because as the Christian brand goes out into the world, there is a bit of a prejudice that all Christians are really humble and modest, and, maybe we don't get into business. Whatever it may be, I think business in particular has a lot of question marks. So I'm here today to ask all those questions to Richard. I want to mention that the topic of business, this episode won't be the first and last. We will do a continuation of the business series, because we know there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are new in their faith journey as well as really seasoned. And I do realize that our walk in faith is very much intertwined with our work, which could be done through business as a business owner as well as a employee as well. So we understand that this is a really hot topic for you, and we can't wait to get into it. Without further ado, let's get straight into the episode. As mentioned earlier, we're here today with Richard. He is currently traveling, and we're so blessed to have him make time in the middle of his journey. So, Richard, please tell us where you are, where you've been, and what you've been up to.
Hello, Rachel. It's been a while. As you indicated, I've been traveling. I had to do a quick one to Ghana for a couple of days for a private ceremony and to catch up also with family. And as you can see, I'm stuck in Dubai here. And we are doing the sessions from here. So it has been fruitful, and heading to Sydney. So this weekend, definitely I'll be home.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely missed you, and we've seen a few videos of you actually preaching and doing your work in Ghana, so amazing to see. So as highly anticipated, today is going to be about business, and I do love that you are in a lounge, you're flying around. It's super appropriate for this topic. So we're gonna get straight into it. Before I get into the nitty-gritty business type questions, I wanted to ask, are there any Bible verses or, stories mentioned in the Bible about the marketplace or being a business person whilst in faith?
Yes, a couple. As a matter of fact, the Bible deals with business and things, engaging one another than any other thing. So one of the things I need to put out there, initially I thought the Bible was just a religious book, but apparently it's not. The Bible is actually, it reveals the blueprint that God has for humanity, our creation, and the way we ought to engage with the world. So it captures the very will of God, how things ought to be done. And so it encompasses every aspect of the human life, the human experience, and how to engage with our world.
Yes.
So within the Bible are different dimensions of business. As a matter of fact, most of the parables of Jesus got to do with business.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Last episode, you mentioned how we were talking about milk and honey, and you were talking about how the land produces crops and makes the person who is managing the land fruitful. So it does make sense that the context has changed, but the foundation of actually being fruitful and profitable remains the same. So I have a bunch of questions and we're going to fly through them today. So if you see me looking to the left, those are all my questions. So the first one I have is, can you get called into business as a Christian?
Okay. Yes. And I think every Christian is called into business. Why do I say that? Because we are talking about work here. And what is work? Uh, it is actually partnering with God in an assigned field. Contrary to popular opinion, work is not a punishment, but rather it is part of us getting involved in what I call the divine rhythm.
Yeah.
So uh, God is more of a businessman. Remember when Jesus came on the scene,
Yeah.
he said something. At the age of 12, we are told he went to Jerusalem with the parents, his mother and foster father, Joseph. And for 3 days, they realized Jesus was not with them. He stayed behind. When finally they combed all the city, the last spot they went to was the temple. And here was Jesus engaging with, a bunch of elders.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that,
Yes.
so the parents went and they asked him, "Where have you been?" And they said, he spoke about that. "Don't you know I must be by my father's business?" So Jesus said his work on coming down on earth was partnering with his father to get the will of the father done. And for me, that is a typical business. That is work. There was an assigned field, and Jesus' duty was to do that.
That makes sense. And connecting to that point, how do you know if you're called into business?
Okay. One of the things we should know about God is God does not, God have a full sense of thoughts. So when God calls you, he designs you to fulfill that task. So your giftings, your talents, your interests, and even what we call circumstances, all pushes you to that field. And so when God created us, he had purpose on his mind. And it is the purpose that determines your gifts. And your gifts, your part of the gift is to develop it. First of all, to discover, to develop. And once you develop, then you relate to your environment based on your gift set. Because the whole concept of business is that you have something that the world around you needs.
Yeah.
And the world around you also have something that you need. So when you exchange those things with the world, that is business. And so it is holistic. God is holistic.
Yeah.
So the same way, when he created Adam, he placed Adam in Eden and gave Adam an assignment. And that assignment was to till the garden, to work the garden, and to keep it.
Yes.
And remember, when he blessed Adam, when he created Adam, he blessed Adam and said, "Be fruitful and multiply." And that is purely business.
That's true.
For whatever reason, is to engage with your world based on what you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what I normally call that business. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and even within the Hebrew thoughts, the word God, the Bible uses for business or work is the Hebrew word abad. And that same word also describes worship.
I see.
So your work, what work does, it does the same thing as worship. So when you are serving God, you are not just serving God by singing songs, but you can also serve God mostly by actually leveraging on what he's giving you and making the world you are in a better place. So it can be in horticulture, it can be in the service industry, it can be as a farmer, it can be as a lawyer. So every one of it.
Yeah.
So when you serve God, that's why there is a phrase, I don't know whether you've heard it, serving God and country.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
yes, yes. Go ahead.
That makes sense because at the end of the day, everything should glorify God. So if your skills, your tenacity, your good works, your successes, as long as you look towards God and give him the credit, it glorifies God. Is that sort of the mentality that we should be having when it comes to any sort of work?
Yes. As a matter of fact, what glorifies God is becoming who he destined you to be, leveraging
Right.
on what he placed in you, and also your investment in yourself.
Right.
So when you harness all your resources
Yes.
and put time within yourself and make sure that you always have your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So whatever you are created to do, when you do it, is excellent. It's a sight to behold. Let me
Right.
put it this way. Have you seen an eagle when there is a storm
Yeah.
and the eagle is confronting the storm?
Yeah.
Or an eagle see a prey and he's, that sharp descent. It's a sight to behold. Go to the nature and start looking at, let's say, a waterfall.
Yeah.
It's a great sight to behold.
Yeah.
So the same way, when you identify your gift sets and you harness, you train yourself, and you put it to work, it is a great sight to behold.
I understand.
So
Wow.
that is glorifying God. So whenever the concept of God comes in, let's understand something about God. He doesn't need us to. We don't add anything to God. So the best way to glorify God is to serve humanity
Wow.
with the values that God, envisaged for humans to deal with one another.
Yeah.
And that is good neighborliness. So you
Yeah.
can be the best in your field, but if you are not serving it for the purpose for which God, mandates,
Yeah.
that is not a glorious thing. So you can be the best in your field, but if our humanity, you are devoid of humanity,
Yeah.
good neighborliness, though you may be the best lawyer, but if it's devoid of values, human-centered, driven by human service, and not, taking undue advantage of people, that will not be to glorify God.
Yeah.
But to glorify God it doesn't mean you don't get paid. Everyone deserves their pay. As a matter of fact, God makes sure of that. But our business should be done in such a way that it does not take advantage of others. So that is God-centered business, approach, where values come in and all that. So I don't
Wow.
know if I'm making
You are making sense.
sense.
And it actually leads into my next question, which was, do you only serve Christians or also unbelievers? And you just mentioned is going out into the world and showcasing your values. So for brothers and sisters who need that sort of literal breakdown of that concept, when we have a business as a believer, how do we navigate serving believers and non-believers?
Okay, so the concept of serving Christian is foreign to God.
Wow.
It's foreign to God. We need to understand that Christianity was not the ultimate. It's just a means to an end.
Yeah.
So God doesn't see us within that framework.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to go into the world
Yeah.
and engage the world for the purpose of bringing Christ-centeredness in the world.
Got it. Yes. Yes.
So our assignment is actually to those who don't have relationship with the Lord. For instance, You see, Christ came to reconcile the world unto God.
Yeah.
And so, as a Christian business person, Christ is in you, reconciling you to his Father. And your duty is to go reconciling others to Christ and to God.
Yeah.
So, those so-called unchurched people
Yeah.
are the reason for our giftings and business. They are the reason why we go to occupy till we come.
Yes.
Remember, Jesus told the disciples, though you are in this world, you are not of this world. What does it mean? You are in this world to win the world for him through the ethics and the values of a different world that is the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
So your duty is to be like a salt. And the duty of the salt, though very small, it can influence whatever you put the salt in. That's why you are the salt of this world. So the business values within a called, an area, let's say you are a lawyer, you are a doctor, the practices may not be Christ-centeredness.
Yes.
But if you are a Christian doctor, your values and everything, you must be able, or God through you can influence the area that you are able to change even negative culture into a positive one.
Yes, and
Yes.
and you
So
mentioned
we are called for actually the unchurched.
Yeah, and you mentioned values. So what are some tips you can give to people in business or even as employees? How do you embed Christian values into your business and also as an employee?
Okay, there is what is called the Sermon of the Mount. And when you go through the Sermon of the Mount and the only law or in the New Testament, love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with and all that. Then love your neighbor as yourself and all that. So once you epitomize, you embody those values, you've got to do away with your own biases and all that, and be each other's neighbor.
Yeah.
So you see, let me put it this way: human beings, no matter where we are, at the core, everybody wants to be treated fairly. Everyone wants to be treated right.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't want to be taken advantage of.
True.
Everyone wants a sense of justice, want to be treated fairly. So whatever you want, give to others.
Got it.
You see, when God created us, he placed himself in us.
Yeah.
So somewhere, if even you don't know right from wrong, when you are being treated wrong, you know there is something in you. So you don't have to teach people about what is right or wrong. There seems to be something inherent within us.
Yeah.
And so when you embody Christ's teachings, selflessness,
Yeah.
Human dignity, sense of fairness,
Yeah.
and you put it there. And most, even within the workspace, most of there are professional bodies and all that.
Yeah.
And they also advocate for making sure that whatever field there are certain things that they are code of conduct.
Yes.
And you realize that, especially within this modern world, it seems that the very teachings of Jesus form the basis of the code of conduct. But because of our fallen nature, what we normally do is everybody wants a smart way of circumventing the issue.
Yes, it's true.
For the purpose of making, larger margins of profit.
Yes.
And interestingly, Jesus says something: you can't serve God and mammoth.
Yeah.
Mammoth is the money aspect.
Right.
Yeah. So once you embody the Christian values, you become not only somebody in the marketplace looking for your interest.
Yes.
But you are looking for the common good. So the purpose of doing business is not so much about making money, but serving your community and understanding that we have an assignment as believers to go and win the world.
Yes.
So the way we do that at the business field is not telling people Jesus came and died for you, but you must embody the good neighborliness, the teachings of Christ, so that when people look at you, they say, this one is different. I wonder where he's getting those positive vibes from.
Yes.
So the Holy Spirit is within you, working out the agenda of heaven.
Yes.
And you become a light, which means when people are wallowing in certain things, when you are doing wrong, you know. You don't have to be told you are doing wrong.
It's true.
People just know.
Yeah.
And all that. So once they see that light and the values, then they get closer. They want to know, where do you get those things from? Then you introduce your Christ. So I see business as a platform of engaging with our community, those of the same interest.
Yeah.
And that can lead to us speaking to them more about our God.
Yes.
Who is actually living through us.
Yes.
And that for me is a beautiful concept.
You answered like 3 questions I had. One of the question you answered was, how do you embed Christian values? You've answered that. The next question I had was, do you have to publicly profess your belief? You've answered that. It's, through your actions, you allow God to work through you and let people think and ask, where do they get this type of, grace or whatever it may be that's positive. And one of the questions I actually had that you kind of tapped into was staying humble and staying within modesty, right? So I think it can come as a prerequisite as you succeed in business or in your career. If you have the Christian values within you, it should come as a prerequisite that you remain modest. Could you break that down for us to understand and why it is important to stay modest in your successes?
Yes. Okay. It's very important, but I want to approach it from this perspective.
Yeah.
I think we should not, as believers, allow people to control the narrative. In what sense? At times, modesty may mean different things to different people.
This is true, yes.
And our personalities are not the same.
True.
Some people love loud colors.
Yep.
And others hate them. Some people are loud.
Yeah.
Others are not so loud.
Yeah.
I think it is in our different makeups that make the world a beautiful place.
Yes.
So modesty, or the issue of modesty, can also be used, weaponized.
True.
For others to tell others how to live their lives.
Yes.
So what I would tell people is that be you, be authentically you.
Yes.
Others will smile, others will laugh and make noise.
Yeah.
Others will dress up, others will not dress up.
Yeah.
Others will even dress down, thinking they have dressed up.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
But once Christ is in you, he knows how to help you live your life. For instance, when the Lord was talking about Solomon in all his glory.
Yes.
Solomon was, a godly man. Later on, he turned the other way. Who ate from golden plate.
Yes.
Who dressed up and showed the grace and the power, the majesty of God, until a blessed woman, the Queen of Sheba, was like, wow, this is excellent.
Yeah.
To others, that will be, not so modest. But to Solomon, it was revealing the glory of God.
Yes.
Whilst others were not in the category of Solomon.
Yes.
And they were, the normal,
Yes.
toned down,
Yeah.
and all that. So I
Wow.
think as long as, and I believe that if God created you like the type of Solomon, and you live otherwise,
Yeah.
you are denying your community the opportunity to see the other aspect of God.
Yes. Yes.
The lion and the lamb at the same time.
Yes.
So I believe, know who you are, embody the Christian values, and live it out unapologetically.
Wow.
And so whatever it looks like, let it be done. But in everything, be also sensitive to the world around you.
Yes. Yes.
For instance, if you are the rich man who live in the affluent area, and there is a Lazarus who is broken, his wounds licked by dogs,
Yeah.
and you live in such a way that like Lazarus doesn't exist, then that is too much.
Yeah.
So be you. Do what God have called you to do,
Yeah.
but also to be sensitive to your environment, knowing
Yes.
that we are each other's keeper. So perhaps it's about time the rich man must invite Lazarus for a cuppa.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yes, and
yeah.
not just drop things.
Yeah, true. True.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
such a great answer because you're right. I think culturally there's different aspects to modesty. And what I noticed in, I guess, in this generation, modesty is often, connected to sexual modesty as well. Like, for example, women showing their breasts, like that causes conversations about modesty. But then in different contexts, modesty is also about being careful with how you show your wealth, for example. So I do really appreciate that you mentioned that the definition does depend per person, and also focusing on modesty is actually not focusing on your purpose that God has given you.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, based on what you just said,
Yeah.
Time and place is also everything.
True.
For instance, you go to the beach,
Yeah.
and I mean, what happened? But if the same setting you bring it to the business room,
No way.
what happened?
No way.
So, where then, when it comes to God, He's at the beach, He's at the business room,
Yeah.
He's everywhere at the
True.
same time.
Yeah.
Also, in your inner chambers, in your home.
True.
So, when it comes to God, what we think may not be.
True.
So you go to certain cultures, even in the beach,
Yeah.
you have to look certain way.
True.
So it's about knowing your world and knowing who you represent
Wow.
and putting dignity on you. For instance, society have a way of putting people in certain places. So knowing at times it's better to rebel against society if it is frowned on your human dignity. So when it comes to our mothers, sisters, wives, daughters, and all that, you are more than where society or how society wants you to look like.
Wow.
Whatever they don't want their daughters to become, don't become it for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
that is deep.
That is very deep. That is very, very deep.
Yes.
Connecting to modesty, the next question I had was, can we enjoy our profits? Now, Pastor Frank actually on Sunday or Friday talked about, you can enjoy your fruits if you have labored for God and you are successful in your journey and all that sort of stuff. Enjoy your fruits. So how can we enjoy our profits without, taking it too far? And what does the Bible say about enjoying our fruits?
He wants you to do it.
Yeah.
He just wants you to do it. And notice also that you are supposed to train your children.
Yes.
So you don't want a situation, you are not the only one with access to your children.
Yes.
So if you make Christianity and your life boring, You are teaching them what not to do. So at times,
Yeah.
intentionality.
Yeah.
Expose them. Remember, all what you have is your memories. So create positive memories for them.
Yeah.
Let them know that money serves us. We don't serve money.
Yes.
So enjoying your profit is the right thing to do. Invest. You eat some, you invest some,
Yeah.
and too much of everything
Is yeah, of
will be
course,
up to
to
them.
moderation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so as a matter of fact, God wants us to enjoy
Yeah.
our profit.
Yeah.
And the Bible has so many great examples
Yes,
of
there
that.
are. Yes.
Yes.
And connecting to now profit is tithing. So I think tithing has a lot of controversy in this
Yes.
day and age, of course. What are some basic things that you can tell us about tithing to start this conversation?
Okay, let's look at it from this angle.
Yeah.
God have agenda on earth that needs to be invested in, that needs to be sponsored. And it is God who blesses us with our substance. And giving back to God is our reasonable service. You see, tithing, I normally connect it to before the law. So tithing
Yeah.
is not based on a law,
Yes.
but is based on human response to God's blessing. So you don't
Yes.
tithe to be blessed, you are blessed to tithe
Yes.
or
Yes.
to give back to God.
Yes.
In the Old Testament, when they look at it, they were talking about 10%. In the New Testament, it is more because you belong to God. Your substance belongs to God.
Yes.
Giving back to God
Yeah.
is just our reasonable service.
Yeah.
And whatever we believe in, we invest in. I used to be a soccer fanatic,
Yeah.
and I used to give whatever you love,
Yeah.
you support.
Yeah.
And so giving back to God is a way of sponsoring the work of God.
Wow.
The gospel needs to, go out for the world, and people have dedicated their life just for that.
Yes.
And others are also doing things at the business field, and they have, resources that they are investing in the gospel. When it comes to which percentage or which, what do you tithe about?
Yeah.
I believe your income. Paul talked about proportional giving.
Yeah.
Somebody with $1, if they give 50 cents, they're giving more than somebody with $100 that they have given $50.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's proportional giving. If it's your income, then you do it on your income. Your income. So these are things that you leave it to individuals to make the call.
Yeah.
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 Because you see, somebody said that, I have A, B, C, D bills. I have to do A, I have to do B. And I said, then everything is yours. Why don't you, because if you are giving everything that before you do the nursery, then at the end of the day, it's like you are saying that I'm going to give you my leftover. But if God is your priority, then you prioritize Him.
Yeah.
So it's about people's growth, people's exposure, and people's values, and also what they deem priority.
Yeah. Wow.
For me, the winning of souls, redeeming the lost world is the ultimate priority in my life.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm beginning to realize with everything that we come to get on this earth, when we are exiting, we don't take any out of it. So the greatest thing you can take is be reconciled with God.
Yeah.
So any investment that get people back to their maker can never be wrong.
Wow.
Can never be wrong. So once you begin to understand the principles behind, and the reason why there is a lot of backlash when it comes to giving is that people assume that pastors live on giving.
Yeah, it's
It may
true.
be yes and no, but people don't also understand pastors also are in the business field
Yes. Yeah.
and they have huge interest in business.
Yeah.
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 So people are not just there waiting for people's offering.
Yeah.
People have their own investment. They do different things. It may be on the quiet, but
Yeah.
the truth is, yeah.
And that's definitely one of the preconceptions that I had when I started my journey back up again as an adult. I did come in with huge biases about tithing because I assumed, like you said, the money goes directly into the pastor's pocket. But having spent time in the church and speaking to elders and actually getting to know you as well, and now serving within the church, I can witness that, I think, and this is why people should spend time in the church. You realize that that is completely not true. I know that you also have your own life. You have, your own ventures, obviously, to feed your family. And whatever the church gathers, I can see that the church pours directly back onto the people. And recently we had the women's conference. We did our own fundraising to make sure that the women's conferences run well and that we also support women in the community. So I directly saw where the money was going, and it sure didn't go into your pocket. So so, I think I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because this is why the tithing conversation is so controversial, because I think, like you said, people applied law to it that is not referenced, and people applied things that sort of benefit themselves, if that makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, the last question I have for this session, for business people and also employees, even, and I guess all throughout life, is how do we stay disciplined? So, what I can see in the Bible is that those who had fruit in their labor, there was a high level of discipline that came with it, whether it's walking in Christ or actually doing the work. Is there some things that you can tell us about the importance of discipline?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I think in life, not only in business, but in life, everything requires discipline.
Yes.
Everything requires discipline, because without discipline, you will not even be continue to focus,
Yeah.
because uh, everything will be screaming and want your attention, and you don't have eternity to live. Later on, we will. But on this earth, we have
Yes.
limited time.
Yes.
We have limited resources. There are relationships we got to build in. Some are important, some are not so important.
Yeah.
So without discipline, you will not get far in life.
Yes.
It is actually what will preserve your life. We have all kinds of appetites. You can eat. Most people want to go for buffet. So when you go for a buffet without discipline, the the kind of things you want to eat may not be the best for your health.
Yeah.
You got to also know your allergies. So without discipline,
It's true.
life will be miserable.
Yeah.
And even the field you are called to do, you have to train, you have to study, you have to set time aside and sleep when you have to sleep. There are all kinds of soap operas.
Yeah.
Are they still called soap operas?
Yes. Yes. Dramas.
All kinds of. They are now on a click of a button. When we
Yeah.
were growing up, there was no so much about internet, and
Yeah.
we were on a scheduled television. There was
Yeah.
time television started and end,
Yeah.
but this time it's 24-hour service.
Yeah.
So without discipline, you stay up all night
Yes.
and get up tired.
Yeah.
So discipline is the very reason. Let me rephrase it. Discipline is a must.
Yes.
A must. And this is why true followers of Jesus have to be disciples.
Wow.
And disciples are those who have chosen to live by a standard. So they are saying that there are many routes, but for us, Jesus is the way. And the Bible used a lot of analogies, the narrow way and the broad way. The broad way, you do whatever you want. The narrow way, you decide, not my will, your will be done.
Yes, very true. And
also,
You know, I think this session, although very quick, we covered a lot of things. And for me personally, it's answered like about 50 questions. Is there a last bit of, a word of encouragement or a pointer that you want to give to those in business and also walking in faith?
Yes. What I'll tell you is that doing business is part of a way of joining the divine rhythm. And God have an agenda in this universe. He wants us to be each other's keeper. He wants us to complement one another. He said it is not good for man to be alone. So he made a helpmeet. That helpmeet is to help the man fulfill purpose and assignment. And that assignment is actually doing the will of God. So in business, God becomes your business partner. And all that. So it is very important, if you are in the business field, don't just work for the money, but work for a purpose. Discover your why. Discover what you've been called to do. And do it with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And know that your labor will not be in vain. God is not a man to lie, neither the Son of Man to repent. So businessmen, you are also doing the work of God.
Amen.
Businessmen and women, you are doing the work of God. So stay true to your word and also know that put your best foot forward. Invest in yourself. Expose yourself to the best of practices. And with God on your side, there is nothing you will not be able to achieve. And believe you me, when you are in the business, know who you are representing and be the best in your field. Don't just be a tongue-talking believer, but also speak in substance and represent God in a way and manner that make your God attractive. And win your community for your God. And with him on your side, the sky is the starting point. Thank you. And Rachel, you yourself, you are in the business world. So perhaps next time the rules will change. I'll be asking the question.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah, we can do that for sure. My last bit of, I guess, encouraging word is, the economy is up and down and it is very easy to be distracted like we discussed. But I think as long as we stay in prayer and we stay hopeful and focused, and like you said, there's going to be many distractions. It's important that we stay disciplined and on track, and knowing what purpose we're doing this for is also very helpful to staying focused. So that's the end of our episode. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us in the airport. And we're super grateful for your word. We can't wait to see you next week. We hope you enjoyed that episode about business. As you can see, that was just a whirlwind of information and a new perspective on who we are as believers and what we represent in the marketplace. So there's a lot of takeaways that I've personally taken note of, but I'm sure you have taken a lot in as well. So as mentioned in the beginning, we will be doing continuations of the business series, and we encourage you to leave comments in the YouTube video or send us DMs if you don't want to send those comments publicly about business. If there are any burning questions otherwise about faith or anything for Richard or for myself, please go ahead and leave your question below in the comments or in the DMs. Otherwise, we can't wait to see you in the next episode. And thank you again for joining us. Bye.